Fulbright Accelerator program for the spring. So I'm thrilled to introduce two of our, one colleague from from IIE who's going to be doing our presentation, and then one of our faculty colleagues who's going to talk about her experiences as a Fulbright scholar. So my name is Brian Souders. That is Mr. Ebony, who just made clear that he wants some attention. And I am the Associate Director for Global Engagement Opportunities in the Center for Global Engagement, which is the former International Education Services Office. We got a rename and a rebrand on January 1. So first, I'd like to introduce Michelle Balorci, who is the Fulbright Outreach Coordinator for the faculty side for the U.S. The U.S. Fulbright Scholar Program. So, Michelle is going to be giving our presentation, and later on, Lynn Casaban from Visual Arts will also be giving a presentation on what her actual experiences were like. So, Michelle.
Great, thank you, Brian. It's good to be back, even though it's a virtual setting. I do look forward to my trips up to your campus every year, but alas, we are here with our screens. So happy to share the opportunities as we kick off a new launch, our new competition we just launched on February 1st for opportunities for faculty and administrators and scholars in general. So just to begin with a brief history and background of the mission of the program, we're excited that this year we're celebrating 75 years of Fulbright. So you'll notice kind of in the top left corner, our logo has changed for this particular year, marking the 75th anniversary. So we have a dedicated website, fulbright75.org. Please have a look at our website with different events available throughout the year. And if your campus would like to host an event virtually or later on in the year, you can submit that online and we can showcase what you're doing with Fulbright on campus. But essentially the mission of the program as the flagship international education and cultural exchange program is to really foster mutual understanding between faculty, scholars, administrators, journalists, and students with our counterparts around the world. So the Fulbright program has 160 countries that we've partnered with for these opportunities. For Americans to study and teach and to conduct research, as well as to bring visiting scholars and students to the US to study and research. So really ultimately fostering mutual understanding between people and improving lives around the world is the ultimate goal of the program. The Fulbright program is sponsored by the US Department of State, and we at IIE administer the program, but certainly I should also cite that a large number of our partner countries contribute funding to support the program. So it's certainly a highly leveraged program with lots of interest to bring Americans to their countries around the world. In terms of diversity inclusion, this is the actual statement from the US Department of State. And this kind of informs everything that we do in terms of outreach and recruitment. So trying to not only have an applicant cohort, but a grantee cohort that represents the diversity and kind of all kinds of diversity that the US has. So not just in terms of race or national origin, religion, but also geographic location. So we really do try and reach out. And now more than ever with virtual world now, we can engage with underrepresented areas and communities and campuses across the country. So really we're trying to have as many people who are eligible to apply as possible because this is a US government program and all Americans with US citizenship should be able to apply. Many of you here already are interested in Fulbright, so that's a good sign. You might not really need to be convinced about the benefits of the program, but perhaps your department or colleagues need to be convinced as to why you might need to leave campus for a semester or for a year. And there's a lot of ways to kind of package this. Not only is it a transformational experience for you, we hope everyone comes back transformed, but you can also bring your family with you. So unlike other grants or fellowship opportunities, Fulbright, the vast majority of awards offer some kind of dependent support, whether it's tuition or flight tickets, etc. And we've seen a lot of great, impact with children of Fulbrighters going on to pursue international careers or make, long-lasting friendships. The other interesting point about the Fulbright is that we have our partners around the world that administer the program in country. So not only are there Fulbright commissions, the binational commissions in about 50 countries, the US embassies support the vast majority of our programs overseas. And so you are not alone once you, from the time of application, starting with me and Brian to the point of reaching your destination abroad, there is somebody, a Fulbright staff member or an IIE staff member assisting you. And then of course the vast alumni network. So, so Fulbright is huge, it's vast, but it's also very supportive. In terms of the numbers, we are also probably the largest fellowship available out there. So there's various parts of the program. Specifically what I'm speaking about today are the opportunities for scholars and administrators, US faculty basically. So there are 900 awards available, 900 spots, right? So annually, every year we give out 900 awards. That's huge. Some fellowships only have 50 or 100, so the scope of this is very vast. And then of course you can see the other parts of the program are very large as well. So there are a lot of opportunities, and I want to encourage you. You might feel that Fulbright is out of reach or too prestigious or too elite. We like to say it's an elite program, but not elitist. Certainly it's attainable, and we're happy to help you navigate the process in the program. In terms of what's available for this upcoming year, so as I mentioned, we kicked off the new competition at the start of the month. Specifically, we're talking about awards opportunities for the 2022 and 2023 academic year. So you always apply kind of the year before the opportunity, or in the case of if you go in spring of 2023, it's more than a year in advance. You can see the vast majority of awards available are what we call the Scholar Awards. That is typically the teaching and research options. We do have a handful of postdoctoral awards. So I would like to encourage you, if you do advise and guide PhD students, to please have them think about Fulbright. They can apply in their final year and begin their postdoc, and up to 5 years of receiving their PhD, they would be eligible for postdoc awards. We also have Distinguished Scholar Awards. Those are the most prestigious in the catalog. It doesn't mean that they're only for senior academics, but the minimum requirement is at least 7 years or more in that particular discipline or field. And then of course we have a small handful of administrator awards, what we call the IEA awards, and those are for a select number of countries. It's a 2-week opportunity for administrators to learn the higher education landscape in a particular country, establish connections, and meet colleagues abroad. So in terms of the eligibility of the program, if we turn to this now, the baseline, as I mentioned, is US citizenship. After that, it really depends on what the award description requires, what that particular award requires. It might not be the requirement for the entire country. You might see 6 or 7 awards for a particular country, and each award varies in terms of what they're looking for. I would say about half of the awards require a PhD or a terminal degree. That could be a JD or an MFA, etc. And then about the other half require at least a master's degree and several years of teaching experience or research experience. We also have several opportunities open to professionals and artists, musicians, etc. And so those requirements are outlined in the award as well. And then if it is a teaching award, it might include the number of years of teaching that are required. All of the teaching in the Fulbright US Scholar Program is done at the college or university level abroad. So there's no high school teaching or anything like that. If you've had a Fulbright in the past, and I'm specifically speaking about the Fulbright Scholar Award, if you've had a Scholar Award in the past, you're eligible to apply again to the program, but we ask that you wait 2 years. We don't count student awards or the Specialist Award or Fulbright Hayes as the Scholar Program. So if you've had one of those, or you're currently on the specialist roster, that's fine. So in terms of the award types, we did make a little change this year. So we have kind of streamlined the titles of the awards. You'll either see Scholar Awards, Postdoctoral Awards, Distinguished Scholar Awards, or the IEAs. So that's one way to search. And we also have a different search function for where you are in your career. So if you're a junior faculty or an early career scholar, you can search awards according to that. We also have what's called the flex option. So the flex option is not a separate award. Sometimes I hear people say, oh, I'm applying for a flex award. That's fine. You're applying to an award that offers the flex option. So you might have an award, let's say, you know, I recruit for India. So India has 40 spots. There's 40 recipients that could get that award. And of those 40 people, maybe 10 or 15, depends on the applicant pool, 10 or 15 might be flex awards. So since that award is open to the flex option, scholars can propose a project that requires shorter segments throughout 2 academic years. So if you can't take your grant for 6 months, but you could do 2 visits of 3 months each, or your project requires that, you would opt for the flex option. And then we have multi-country grants through the Global Scholar Award and the multi-regional, kind of multi-country awards that are offered in each region. So there are a few things you should consider before applying to the program, because you'd want to articulate these things in the project statement and ensure that you're a good match. So the first one is, how does the Fulbright Award, the Fulbright experience, how would it benefit you professionally, personally, and also if you're bringing your family, you would want to consider that, because we do have a large number of opportunities for Fulbrighters to bring their family. And then you'd also want to consider, how will it benefit your home institution? Oftentimes, now UMBC might be different, but I was speaking with a very small college in West Virginia yesterday, and they struggled to, to get people to apply to the program simply because they don't see, they're not seeing the benefits coming back to campus. So how would you articulate that? That's something that we would like to also see in the project statement in terms of impact. Certainly, we like to see impact on both sides, not only in the host country, but when you come back to the US. And then to also understand, before you apply, how your institution supports faculty on fellowships in general. Is there a particular policy for taking leave without sabbatical? Is there a particular policy geared towards Fulbright awards? So you'd want to sort that out, because the Fulbright award is paid directly to the recipient. It's not, even though we use the word grant sometimes, it's not a grant that's paid to the university. So you'd want to make sure that you cover your bases and that your department and your institution is aware of, that you're applying for this. Loop in Brian, let him know, and he can offer support as well. But, in some departments, it varies how that's handled. Now, when it comes to the catalog of awards, I mentioned there were about 900 recipients, 900 annually that receive the Fulbright. We have over 450 unique, well, I think it's now 410 unique award opportunities. So since you can only apply to one award, it's important that you select the one that is the best fit for you. So I always say half the battle is selecting the right award, the other half is just putting everything together, right? So the first thing you'd want to consider is, what would you like to do on a Fulbright? And then from there, consider where you could match your profile and expertise and background to the appropriate award. And if there's a language requirement, a lot of the awards in the Western Hemisphere do require some level of Spanish. If you have that, go for that, maybe where you can, show yourself as a competitive applicant. If the award lists particular disciplines or fields of study that are prioritized for that region or that country, and yours matches up, you'd be a strong fit there. Ultimately, you want to ensure that the project you're proposing, whether it involves teaching or research, is relevant not only to you, but also the host country or the host institution. Think about it, you're applying for funding, we're looking for innovative projects that have impact and that will have that multiplier effect. So the benefits not only to you, but also your community on both sides, the host community and the home community. So I can also, if we have time, I can show you the catalog of awards and how you can kind of search and narrow options down. But certainly selecting the right award is the first kind of thing that you want to start looking at now. And this is a great time to start thinking about Fulbright because the deadline is in September. So when you open up the catalog of awards, you'll see, I just kind of put a screenshot here of what we had for last year. It's basically still the same, but you'll see these 4 different tabs, and each tab has the information, you know, some additional parts of information. So, excuse me. So for example, the award details tab is kind of the basic description of what the award is outlining. The requirements tab states whether a letter of invitation from the host institution is required. And then if there's additional, like a profile or additional profile information that's required. The stipend and benefits tab outlines not only the stipend that the recipient would receive, but also the benefits in terms of if there is a dependent support, if there's a research allowance, a travel allowance, things like that, relocation allowance. So all of those financial and non-financial benefits would be outlined in that tab. In terms of the application components, it's fairly straightforward. The online application form goes live next week. You would be required to upload a 3 to 5 page project statement, and then all of the other documents also listed here. So the CV or the resume, which also has a page limit requirement. This year, we're only requesting 2 letters of recommendation. It used to be 3 a couple of years ago. We've now reduced that to 2. And then if language is required for your research or teaching, then a language proficiency report. But I do just want to keep it in your minds that the vast majority of awards do not require any language. All teaching is typically in English unless otherwise stated. So again, it's the rule rather than the exception. So English is the mode of instruction. And then letters of invitation, the vast majority, we've kind of ensured that the letter of invitation is not a barrier. So the vast majority of awards do not require an invitation letter. In terms of supplemental materials, depending on what you opt to do, whether it's teaching or research, you might need to attach the relevant syllabi, bibliography, and then if you're in the arts, the portfolio, kind of a mini portfolio. And all of these components need to be updated and uploaded by the deadline. So that includes the recommendation letters. So it's kind of on the applicant to ensure that the application package is complete by September 15. This is just an overview of the timeline. We do get a lot of questions, and of course the questions are coming in now from the applicants from last September as to when will I find out. So there's a long process. We kick off in February. We close the application in September. We do a quick review technically for technical eligibility. And then we have the first phase of review, which is the US peer review. That's in October and November. Then from November to January, all of the recommended applications go to our to the countries, you know, of the application. So for the in-country review, simultaneously the files are shared with the Fulbright Foreign Scholarship Board for their vetting. So there's lots of different eyes on the applications. Final decisions then are made starting typically at the end of January, and they can go on as far as the end of April or even early May. But the vast majority of notifications go out in February, March, and April. So, and after that, the Fulbrighters that are selected then start preparing for departure. We do have some pre-departure orientations that are in person or, you know, virtual, depending on what the status is. But keep in mind, what we're talking about is for the fall of 2022 and the spring of 2023. So I'm hoping that we'll have COVID largely behind us and things will be in person. And if you are going to a country that has a Fulbright Commission, typically the orientation is in country. So now these are the shifting gears to the administrator opportunities for those of you that are interested in the 2-week options to learn more about these particular countries' higher education systems and perhaps, you know, brokering partnerships. we do offer 7 different IEA opportunities. One of them is specifically for community colleges. That's the one to Russia. So the other ones would be available for all of you. But again, each one of these has a different deadline and also takes place throughout different parts of the times of the year. So it's important to take a look. I believe this year, the IEAs that are open are France, Germany, and I believe Korea. So those are the 3 options available this year in the application. You can get more information by looking at IEA. Again, the deadlines are kind of rolling throughout the year. Now this slide features ways that you can engage with Fulbright on your campus, kind of with the inbound part of the program. The opportunities I spoke about are for Americans kind of outbound. This is a way to engage with visiting scholars and foreign students on, bringing them to your campus. The first one would be the Scholar in Residence program, and that will be kicking off in March. And again, we're talking about 2022, 2023. And this would be where your campus, the institution applies to host a Fulbrighter for the year or for a semester. And so it's kind of a call for an appointment, so to speak. So you essentially draft the job description, what courses you'd like the scholar to teach, et cetera. So that's a teaching scholar for the semester, for the year. We do have about 900, in any typical given year, we have about 900 visiting faculty, visiting scholars to the US who are here to conduct research. So you can bring any of those to your campus or for a virtual presentation through the Outreach Lecturing Fund. So let's say you have something scheduled for International Education Week and you'd like to have somebody from, I don't know, Tanzania speak about, something that you're programming with African studies, you can have that. Or if the Middle East studies department has something and you'd like to have somebody from, I don't know, Egypt or any other country, you name it, speak, you could see on our roster in the scholar directory who is available from those particular countries and have them speak to your students or your faculty. And then we have the FLTA program, which is wonderful. It's a great opportunity for kind of recent graduates. They're typically studying their master's when they're in the US, and they're also teaching their native language. So these are young Fulbrighters that are in the US teaching their native language and adding really to the vibrancy of your department, or maybe helping start a new language if you are interested in having that. So there's lots of ways to engage with Fulbright. These are the 3 different ways that I'm highlighting here, because these programs are also administered by IIE. We also have a cohort of Alumni Ambassadors. So if you'd like to hear from somebody aside from myself, you also have a very robust group of alumni at UMBC, but certainly these are the designated kind of official representatives of the program that can speak to your faculty as well about how they did their Fulbright, how they approached it, what they did on their grant, and how things have played out afterwards in terms of continuing collaboration and institutional impact. So you can see more and read about each one of them on our website under Alumni Ambassadors. And of course, there's more information about Fulbright. Wherever you go, you'll know that it's a huge, there's a huge suite of programs. Some of them are administered by other organizations, and that information is here. So there's not just opportunities for scholars and students, but also for K through 12 teachers. So if you have any friends and colleagues that are interested, you can spread the word about those opportunities as well. So my last slide, Brian, is just the contact information. And then we can go on to questions, and I can also share the website, because we've made some updates as well. So that's all from me.
Fantastic. So
yeah,
while you were chatting, I did have a couple of, one question. So that I see right here is, how many applications do you get per year?
So that information we do not share. I know the student program publishes their statistics, and the reason for that is to assist students in understanding where there's a greater need, specifically because the program has a large number of English teaching assistantships available, and they want to direct students to where they could have the most impact and success. The Scholar Program is different because we are looking for experts in particular fields, and so it's a completely different kind of applicant pool, and the competition is just very different in its nature. I would say in terms of being competitive, you're most competitive when you are applying for an award that closely matches your experience and what you'd like to do with what's listed in the award description. And if you have the opportunity, if you know, about half of the awards in the catalog are open to all disciplines, but if you see a country that has not only an all disciplines award, but perhaps an award that's open to a specific discipline or a couple disciplines, and you fall into that, you match up with that, go for that award, because then you'd only be competing with your peers in that field. Whereas if you are going to the all disciplines, it could be all career levels, all fields, etc. So if you have a choice in a particular country, always go for the one where you'd be the closest matched. So any other questions that came through?
I had a basic one, which is, will we be circulating the slides? Yes, we will. We're recording the program, so we'll be able to have everything available to you. And we can send that out to our respondent list as well. Last question that I see right now is, if you do not get an award, is it possible to get feedback about your application?
So we can only give general feedback. We don't actually share, we're not able to share any of the specific feedback from the peer review panels or the in-country review. So in fact, nothing is communicated to us once it's out of our hands and it's in that country. So if it doesn't make it past the first round of reviews, which is the peer review, what we can do, and I'm going to share my screen, I'm going to pull this up. What we can do is direct you to the review criteria, which is essentially the rubric that our peer reviewers are using as they analyze each one. So here we go. I'm going to share this. Here we are. So we are on the CIES.org website, which is the Fulbright Scholar website. If you've checked our website before, you'll notice that we've made an upgrade, and we've kind of made the navigation a little easier. So I do want to point out that this is all brand new. And if you click through each of these, you'll see the 75th information, as well as other program information here. And of course, our year in review. So if we were to take a look at the US Scholar Opportunities, scroll down on the main page, you'll see the webinars that we have scheduled. So we do discipline focused as well as regionally and country-wise focused webinars. And if you click here, you'll get more information about the program in terms of eligibility application. This is the review criteria I was mentioning. If you don't make it past the first round of reviews, we recommend even before you put your application in, or as you're drafting your project statement, to ensure that you're consulting the review criteria so that you're kind of checking off all the boxes and ensuring that it is as robust as it can be. And then of course the timeline and the FAQs, depending on what you're looking to apply to. If we go back here and we click on the Scholar Awards, you'll go straight to the catalog. So the catalog of awards, if you just click search awards, you will see there's 411 opportunities for 900 recipients, right? So 400, one award, as I mentioned, the award to India has 40 spots, right? So this is something that can be a little overwhelming because there's over 400 opportunities, but the best way to do narrow your search is to take a look on the left side. So let's say, well, I have a sabbatical coming up, or I'd want to take research leave. So I'm going to click on awards that are strictly research. And I've only got about 3 months or so maybe 4 months a semester. I'm going to click 3 to 5 months. And I do have a PhD, so I only want to compete with other PhDs. And I really don't want to bother with an invitation letter, so I'm going to click on optional, or it shouldn't be sought. Some institutions don't want you contacting them because they really want to just see who they're getting without any of that. And I'll leave the career profile open and I'll do my search. So now I've narrowed it down to 51 awards here that don't require an invitation letter and are strictly research. So if I go to the list view, I can scroll through these, and I'm going to just click on this one because it's new, and I also recruit for Brazil. So I'm going to show you how this works. So this is a brand new award for distinguished scholars, and it's in democracy, human rights, and violence prevention. So this is something that Brazil has prioritized, but they've also partnered with a university there, and you'll see that the name is outlined here. And the only parameter is conduct a research project of the applicant's choosing. All right, fair enough. And then they give the grant start dates when you can start, or as long as you complete it by the end of the month in September of 2023. They hyperlink information about the Catholic University in Porto Alegre, where the scholar would be placed. They also outline if you choose to do the flex option, it would be 2 visits of 2 months each. And the reason why they've outlined that is that means that they've budgeted for 2 round trip flight tickets for the scholar. Some flex options will say up to 3. So you might be able to do 3 visits. So there's that. And then you can see my contact information here, since I recruit for the Western Hemisphere, I have my phone number, my email, and also the office hours. So this is where you can chat with me one-on-one. You're all familiar with office hours. We love office hours because we can get to your questions right away. It avoids all the email and the back and forth. And what's great is we noticed when we piloted this last year, a lot of people just tune in for the office hour because they might just have one question, but 10 other questions get answered because other people are asking them. And they didn't even think that oh yeah, I didn't know I needed to know that. So the office hours are great. Here we can see that this particular award says a letter of invitation should not be sought. So you don't have to worry about that. But Brazil is open to having you contact them. So this is something that's nice. You can contact the person at the university as well as loop in the commission to kind of see if you'd be the right fit for this. But again, you're not at a disadvantage if you don't contact them. We see that English is sufficient in terms of the language, and that here specifically, they're looking for a tenured teacher or researcher for more than 7 years. And I believe the tenure in this term is not tenure as in the US. I'm clarifying with Brazil as we speak, but I believe they just mean somebody, their tenure has been 7 years of teaching. So take a look at that. It's not referring to your status as a tenured faculty. So that's one way to, and you can see the stipend and benefits information. There's not any tuition benefits for dependents, but all of that would be outlined if it were. So going back. Oh, and I also want to show, if you click in the award, this begin the application process button will take you to all of the information that you need, as well as the application link, which will again be live next week. So do we have any questions? I see the chat box is glowing, so let me just check.
There was one last question here that was, is it common for faculty to apply more than once before they are successful?
Sure, absolutely. I mean, the applicant pool varies from year to year. The awards sometimes vary. I would say 90% or maybe a little more than 90% of the awards stay the same. But then there's that, 8 to 10% that change every year. So for example, Brazil has completely changed all of their offerings this year. The only award they've kept is their All Disciplines Award. So we've had a lot of people just apply. I spoke to somebody the other day. She tried 4 times, and each time she tried for a different country. And then she finally, her 4th attempt was successful. So other times I've heard people apply once or twice to the same country, and then they get it on their 2nd or 3rd try. So don't be discouraged if you don't get it the first time. This is, there's a learning curve, and there's also a way to, really understand what you're hoping to do and what Fulbright is looking for. The most successful applications are those that really address a need in that particular country, that also fulfill, something that's on your research or teaching agenda, and that has impact and is relevant. So if you are applying for, and keep in mind, it really depends on which country and which award you're applying to. Applying to something like, trying to think, let's say if you were to apply to Guatemala, there's one award, and I think there's only one spot. But if you were to apply to Canada or India, there's 10 or 15 awards that offer up to 50 spots, right? So it's the competition, it really differs depending on where you're applying. And if you're applying for, let's say Costa Rica. Costa Rica is an all disciplines award, but they are really interested in TEFL and environmental conservation. So those are prioritized disciplines, but certainly they may or may not get any applications in those fields. If you have a phenomenal application that is just as impactful, but it's in a different field, you will be successful. So it's important to kind of understand how the program works so that you can ensure that you're successful. Keep in mind, this program is sponsored by the US Department of State. So ultimately, we're looking for phenomenal teaching and research projects, but people who can also serve as cultural ambassadors.
Great, thank you.
Sure.
One of our faculty members would like to ask a question directly to you. So Philippa,
Yeah.
please feel free. You're muted, just to let you know.
Yeah. Okay. So this question is really kind of specific to my situation. So I hope that's okay. But I have been working in scientific publishing for most of my career, both as a faculty and professional. And there are many areas around the globe where scholars don't know how to navigate the scientific publishing process. And I'm trying to figure out how to go to the place where there's most science being done, where the information that I can give and also the information I can get about how people are trained and what training is needed. There are a lot of different places for that. So you had talked about, picking the right program. And when I look at all the different descriptions, there are kind of slices of these things in different areas. So even when I go through, it's very and kind of winnow down where I know, it's more so where I know I don't want to go as opposed to where I do, I could. So there's there are a lot of different ways to slice this, and I'm not sure how to do it. And I also want to know if, like, you or anybody else in the program can give direct guidance for what might be a good match.
So we can, up to a certain degree. I keep in mind the catalog, all of the awards we have in the catalog are written by the countries that offer them. So we try and ensure that they're streamlined and that they can read kind of pretty much the same across the board.
Right.
But each of these are really, what the country is looking for in terms of their needs. And they tend to be pretty traditional. They either want people to come and teach or research. But we do have a new option called the professional project option. So if you're looking to kind of enhance, how people approach scientific publishing, or how, you'd have to maybe consider a professional project. And again, you'd also want to contact the hosts, or perhaps maybe the commission or the US Embassy that's listed in the award description, to see if that would be something appropriate and maybe kind of gauge their interest. Again, the vast majority of the awards are for traditional teaching and research at universities. So, but the professional project is something that is not quite, if you hover over the question mark, it says it enables the participant to engage in activities in their area of expertise that don't particularly fit that mold of a traditional academic research project with a methodology and with that kind of a timeline, but it's something where you would build capacity and enhance, what that institution is doing with your experience.
Right.
So again, we can only give so much information about particular regions and countries' priorities or interests, but reaching out to them directly would be the best course of action. Hope that answered your question.
So Thank you so much, Michelle. So I would like to have Lynn Casaban of Circa, if she would like to talk a bit about her experience. I understand that Lynn, you've got some slides as well. So I'm not
Yes.
sure how we
Yeah.
make that magic happen to.
It
Let
looks like
me-
maybe I can share. I'll try.
I'm going to make you the co-host so that you can share.
Okay.
Mhm.
Hello, everyone. Let me just get this going here. So I'm Lynn Casaban. I'm a professor in visual arts at UMBC. I'm also the director of the Center for Innovation, Research, and Creativity in the Arts, which is partially hosting this, webinar. So I was a Fulbright Scholar in the spring of 2015. I went to Latvia. It was a teaching award. I'm showing you a map in case you don't know, because actually get a lot of questions, where is Latvia? So it's in the Baltics, and it's the middle one, the middle child of the Baltics. On the right is the city I was in. I was not in Riga, I was in Liepāja, which is a city on the coast, so on the Baltic Sea. And I got connected to Latvia. You might have this question, why Latvia? I was actually looking at a number of different countries. I had applied to Croatia, actually was unsuccessful previous to this. But I actually met some artists, some Latvian artists when I had an exhibition in Poland in 2014 or 2013, and just connected with them and learned about Liepāja University and this new media lab they had going there. And so that connection inspired me to apply for the teaching award to teach in the new media lab at Liepāja University. I also wanted to show you this map because as I'm talking about some of the work I did with the students there, it's important because one of the projects I did was a public art project with these third-year students centered in the city of Liepāja, and we were creating a project that would kind of connect the southern section of the city called Ezerkrāts and Karosta in the north. It's an interesting place actually, because Karosta was a military base for the Soviet Union for 19th and 20th century. So there's a lot of Russian-speaking people there, and then Ezerkrāts, on the other hand, was more Latvian-speaking. So it became a very interesting project. So I wanted to show you this ID card. I was just very excited to get this, and how they renamed me Lynn Casaban in Latvian. And on the left is the name of the university in the lab that I was working in, the New Media Lab. These are I taught actually 3 courses while I was there, 2 in the New Media Lab, 1 in the College of Arts and Sciences. This is the second-year students, their exhibition at the end of our time together, end of our class. And I was so excited, they gave me flowers and chocolate at their own exhibition. I was just like, my students never do that. their exhibition, they were giving me flowers and chocolate, but it's a very traditional Latvian thing to do. So with the third-year students, as I was mentioning, this lighted Liepāja festival, I was told within the first week I was there that they invited me to do a project myself, and I decided I wanted to actually include the students for many reasons as part of the class I was teaching, which was public art and new media. It was also convenient because then I had translators and people who could go between the public. So what we ended up doing through conversations, we got 2 buses in the city. One we positioned in Karosta and one in Ezerkrāts, the other end of the city, and we created this multimedia exhibition inside the buses. This happened it was in March, I believe. Still pretty cold in Liepāja. But they did not prevent actually hundreds of people coming out to see our project, coming into the buses. So the projects included video, you can see screens on the outside, as well as audio and other lighted elements. This is just a kind of view of how the public was looking at our project from the outside. And then on the inside, so there was audio playing. The audio was actually I won't play it for time, but there were recordings of people from these different neighborhoods. So there were voices of people talking about the neighborhoods. And it was actually a trilingual project. The name of the project, we called it Cross Osta, which means shore to port, because actually we have the Baltic Sea on one side and the lake, Ezerkratz, the lake on the other side. So it was a kind of combination of the two neighborhoods together. And as I said, Karosta were Russian speakers, so there was Russians, people speaking Russian, as well as Latvian, and some English as well. Sorry, I'm having trouble getting off this slide for some reason. Let me try clicking. Okay, so this is some kids inside the bus. I also, even though my work was teaching, I was able to pursue my own work, and I did a couple different projects. The main one I did was called Baltic Portraits. So because the city is on the sea, on the Baltic Sea, I decided to do a series of portraits of people at the sea and ask them to give me a statement about the meaning of the Baltic Sea in their life. I worked with one of the students that I had who actually, she grew up, her father was Russian, her mother was Latvian, so she was trilingual. So she helped me with the communication, and her English improved greatly through the process. And then this is what I ended up creating later after I returned to the States, these large prints that are 60 inches high by 30 inches wide, with the statement. The highlighted or in bold is the language the person spoke. So she spoke Russian. She was cleaning the beach. That was her job. And we stopped her and asked her. And most of these were done just by asking people on the beach, because no matter how cold it was, there was always people walking on the beach. And I like to run on the beach, so I was there a lot too. This man, actually, he grew up in England because his family was split, because of the occupation of the Soviet Union. And so he talks about that division of his family. Then he came back to Latvia, where he lives now. A few more. So I actually, there was also the other part of this project was I had photographs of the sea itself, which I took long exposure photographs after sunset of the Baltic Sea. And those are positioned with those portraits of people. So there's 10 of these long exposure photographs. I did get to exhibit some of these portraits in Liepaja, and this actually happened after I left. So it was arranged in bus shelters. So I really liked how it was actually the beginning of summer. Liepaja is actually a very popular beach destination for Latvians. And so these portraits, which were taken, in March and April of people standing at the beach, these are the people, the real residents, not the visitors, who were, kind of the visitors reading these statements by the people who live in Liepaja all year round. So that's it for my slides, and I'm happy to take questions if there's time for that.
So I have two questions. So question one is, could you just chat a little bit about why you chose Latvia and what you've done to sort of continue that exchange since you've come home?
So I think I said at the beginning that the reason I chose Latvia, was because of meeting some Latvian artists in Poland when I had an exhibition, and learning about their work. Their work's very interesting. And in terms of continuing the connection, I have, I'm connected with many of them on social media. So kind of keeping tabs on what they're doing. Actually, the two, the artist that I mentioned that I met in Poland, he and his collaborator, who is his wife, came to the US, I think it was 2017, on a reverse Fulbright. So reconnected with them. Actually, they were in New York. And yeah, so kind of nothing formal, but keeping in contact. I actually also was pursuing, I've kind of stopped right now, but I was pursuing for a while, showing those portraits in the Latvian embassy, or other, connecting with Latvians here in the US.
I have two teaching related questions for you. One, when you applied for the teaching fellowships, did you have an idea of what courses you would teach and where you would fit into the various departments at the university at the time you applied?
Yes, I did have an idea because I had met those artists who have this, were in the new media lab. So I kind of got an idea of that particular program. It actually is an undergraduate, a graduate, and they have a PhD program as well. So it's small, but I did have a good idea, and it was a good match for the visual arts department at UMBC in terms of its focus on new media. So I did have a good idea in that case.
And one last question was, it's actually from Amy Freud, who had to leave. How much teaching, air quotes, did you do in a teaching award? Was it a single class, multiple classes? Could you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I did end up teaching 3 classes, but it was very negotiable in terms of like how much I wanted to teach. The 3rd class was almost like a half a class, I have to admit. It was a lecture class in the School of Arts and Sciences. So it wasn't like overbearing. Like I said, I was able to do my own research project as well as teaching, but I would say it seemed to me that it was negotiable with the host. You could, kind of negotiate how much you teach, how many classes you teach.
Great, thank you. That is the end of our questions that in the chat. So I'm going to talk super briefly in the 3 minutes I have left. First thing is to thank our co-sponsors, number one, who, as I'm starting off I'm so excited to talk about Fulbright, I forget to thank our co-sponsors. So our colleagues at the Drescher Center for the Humanities, at CERC, of course, thank you, Lynn, for co-sponsoring, and the Center for Social Science Scholarship. So thank you all for helping us to get the word out about this presentation, number one. But number two, what is my role? So when we had this presentation a year ago, we did not have a formal person whose sole job it was to help our students and our faculty members with Fulbright applications. Now we do, that's me. So I was hired, my start date was March 2nd. So I'm glad I got everything through HR before everything shut down. But my job is basically the same as it is with our students. So, and as you probably are aware, we have a very successful student Fulbright program. My job with the Scholar Program is exactly the same. So sort of work with you on some aspects of the formal sort of helping you maybe to choose or narrow down, talk a bit more about what the program is like. But also then once you've chosen, started your application, to work with you on the writing part of it and what I always call the let's make it Fulbrighty. So I will also say that I very rarely know anything about your disciplines. So although I do have my PhD from the LLC program here at UMBC, and my actual academic training before I came here was in political science, so I'm a social science trained person, I almost never know anything about your specific project, but I do know what Fulbright is looking for, how it is that this is a cultural exchange, how it is that you are going to benefit the host university, how it is that you're going to bring these lessons back home, and to help you create a competitive application. So that's my job here. And I'm happy to talk with any of you as we march forward over the course of the application cycle. In the chat, I'm going to put in my email address, which is just actually, I'm trying to do this with a cat on my lap. So he's been very good sleeping through the whole thing. There we go. It's just my email is just souders@umbc.edu. And I'm happy to set up a time to chat with you if you've got any questions, if this whole thing seemed a little overwhelming. So at least to talk to you about what the UMBC side of thing is. So yes. And Rachel Brubaker also wanted to point out that the CAHSS research centers are also absolutely available to offer assistance to all faculty applicants as well. So thank you for that, Rachel. So to be respectful of everyone's time, it is almost 1 o'clock. So are there any last minute questions that anyone has? I don't see.
Well, if you have questions later, again, you can reach out to Brian or myself, Michelle Belorci. I put my contact info in the chat, as well as if you're just not sure what country or region, but you have a particular project in mind, we can guide you by writing to scholars@iie.org. So,
Wonderful.
Brian, thank you so much. It's been wonderful to talk to your faculty. We will be sending the recording across, so all of you will be able to access that, as well as any of the registrants who were not able to attend today. So thank you so much and all the best. Thank you, Lynn, for sharing your experience. And of course, reach out to your alumni on campus. They are the best resource that, they've been there, they've done that, and they can help you out. So thank you so much, everyone. Thanks.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.